welcome. I'm Pam Quinn, Provost for the LeCroy Center of the Dallas County Community College District. And I'm here today with some very distinguished members of the National University Telecommunications Board. And we are going to be discussing the online environment and the new models that are emerging to serve that student at a distance. The NUTN board members, Chris Geith and Karen Vignari, have found that despite the rapid growth in the adoption of distance and asynchronous learning networks, there is little detailed information on effective business models, business strategies, and effective practices on which to build sustainable online education programs. What has been done to focus on the cost and economic models, the growing for-profit institutions, and new organizational approaches such as spin-offs and virtual community college or university consortia? With the ever-increasing trend in students moving to online environments for their studies, we are going to talk to some of the private and public universities that are creating new ways to do business that differ from the traditional methods. Everything from marketing, program design, student recruitment, and faculty roles are beginning to change. And to open our discussion, I'd like to introduce those panelists that are from the NUTN board and let them introduce themselves and what they do. And we'll start with Stacey. Stacey Clawson.
Hello, I'm Dr. Stacey Clawson from Capella University. I'm Director of Curriculum and Instructional Support, in charge of the quality of our academic programs and teaching and learning.
Thank you, Stacey. Tom.
Hi, I'm Dr. Tom Wilkinson. I'm Associate Vice President for Distance Learning and Summer Sessions at Virginia Tech. I have the responsibility for providing the overall leadership of distance learning at the university.
Welcome. And Joann.
Howdy. I'm Joann Kroll from the Bush School of Government and Public Service. I am the Director of Extended Education, a part of Texas A&M University.
That explains the howdy, right?
That's
right. David?
Hi, I'm David Vande, and I serve Ashford University as their Senior Director of Academic Partnerships.
Good. And Dana?
Hello, I'm Dana Offerman. I'm the Provost and Chief Academic Officer at Excelsior College in Albany, New York. As the Provost, I'm responsible for all the academic programs, the faculty, and student support services.
Well, welcome and thank you all for being here and for visiting with us today about the new emerging models. And the new business models are emerging in for-the-profit schools and in some traditional programs. And in the Bush School of Government, Joann, can you describe the business model that you are using and how it has changed from the more traditional model?
Well, currently with the Bush School and its extended education program, we are totally self-sufficient in that we acquire none of the tuition that is paid by the student, and we're on a fee basis. So we charge a fee for each one of the courses, semester credit hour fee, and that is what we function off of. And from that, we pay for all the development, all the teaching, the faculty's costs, the production, the staff, the advising, the recruiting, the marketing, all of that is paid for the program out of those fees. So it's very different in that we don't use or utilize a lot of the services that the institution has available because of both our target audience and the type of student that we have. We want to provide a higher level of student services and really focus in as the student is priority. So all of that kind of ties into how our model functions and then the way that we use those fees to really service the student, because the student's paying the fee, so we make sure that the student receives what they're paying for, so to speak.
So far, are you successful and
we have
with
been.
Where you're going?
We have been. I've started with the Bush School 3 years ago. They had about 20 students at that time, totally online, and currently today we have 1,500 students in our system. We have put in many different processes and procedures and function totally different now than we did then based on the financial model that we use.
Well, we are all agreeing that there is a new model that is emerging, but What are some of the characteristics of the new business model that is being seen in the for-profit and some of the entrepreneurial land-based institutions such as Texas A&M? Characteristics.
Pam, I think one of the most salient characteristics is a change in the fundamental faculty model that has driven a lot of the finances of higher education, traditional higher education as we know it. And many of the institutions, whether they be for-profit like Capella or not-for-profit like my institution, do not use a traditional faculty model with tenure and traditional faculty titles. I think that part of this has to do with the economics of education today and the need to sort of unbundle that role and to use more and more contingent and adjunct faculty in their programs. It's a more efficient model, and it's also one that I think can bring a lot of academic quality to programs because one is allowed to literally get faculty from around the world who are the most expert faculty in a particular discipline. So I think that drives a lot of what we're seeing in terms of the business models and the kinds of institutions that are represented here.
I would add that another characteristic of our business model is the use of data. So looking at quality, looking at how we support our faculty, but figuring out along the spectrum of the student experience, what are those milestones for success, how do you predict barriers to success, and gathering, and not only gathering that data, but interpreting that data and putting it back into the system so that both the colleges, the university themselves, the faculty, leaders of the academic programs, and then the staff can use that data and improve all of their services and academic programs for the students.
Stacey, just to add to that comment, I think the for-profits generally operate under the mandate that which can be quantified, right, will be quantified, and so they take that data and basically, I think, create a more efficient system, and I think that's probably one of the areas that the traditional universities can learn from, that the for-profits are doing quite well. And I know that we basically have ratio-driven processes now to assure efficiency, to assure that students are actually learning what they're supposed to learn, and all those things, from marketing to curriculum to learning outcomes, everything is data-driven.
That was one of the major changes that we made too at the Bush School early on with the program, was we purchased a customer relationship management system, a CRM, and it has been crucial to maintain that information in the data and the dashboard implementation, and so that we have hourly updates on what's going on with enrollments and registration and learning outcomes, and everything tied together is all, impacted, and we have to have those processes in place to see that.
And I think traditional universities like Virginia Tech, with over 150 years process, it has been slower to come along to the use of data. That has increased significantly over the last few years. You have to have the data to be able to make the proper decisions, particularly in this economic climate that we're in.
Absolutely.
David mentioned that we could be learning lessons. Are there other lessons that can be learned from the traditional models and the new emerging business model that many of the for-profits are using? What are the other things we can learn from each other?
Well, one other point that I would make is that I think that the idea of the student as a customer that the institution needs to nurture and support and understand is something that it may be more obvious in for-profits, but I do think it is also coming into traditional institutions as well. As people talk more and more about student success and needing to put in place the infrastructure, not just to bring students into the institutions, but to make them successful in those institutions.
And Dana, if I could go back to your point about faculty, it really mirrors the student relationship with the organization. The faculty relationship with the organization has to look at those key indicators for success for our faculty as well, especially as we have more adjunct faculty that we're working with. So bringing the faculty in, making sure they're a fit for the institution, supporting them along their way and helping them be successful in their roles.
And I would also like to add your comment, Dana, about looking at the student as a consumer, because what we found is that really drives almost everything that we do. And that means you've got to know who that consumer is. You've got to know what needs they have. And then that, of course, drives curriculum as well. And then you have to know how to reach out to those students. And I think one thing that the for-profits are doing very well is recognizing those populations and using very sophisticated means to reach out to those populations. I know that we do a lot of market segmentation and use very sophisticated companies to help leverage us in reaching out to certain populations that we know would like our services and would benefit from them. So that's the other side of that, really looking at it as a consumer.
Yeah, and I think that that's a difficult conversation in more traditional institutions. Having been in more traditional institutions, the idea that the student is a customer and a